Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Royal News Network Saturday morning live stream. And oh my gosh, guys, we are 18 days in, just 18 days. And it has been an absolutely disastrous year for Harry and Meghan, but especially Meghan. Especially Meghan. It seems like every newspaper article or anything, like Harry's there, but really like the derision is on her. And the Vanity Fair piece, if you guys haven't watched the video, yes, it's long. I might do sort of a compilation, not a compilation, but I'll do maybe a like 5 things to take away from that article video, I think, just to kind of summarize, because obviously that video is very long. But I mean, it was a good article in terms of it had some really interesting tidbits. I do agree with what somebody said, is that it's kind of confusingly written. It's kind of jumps around to different ideas, not real cohesive, so not a great article in many ways. However, Harry and Meghan, oh boy, it just gets worse for them. It does. And they brought this all on themselves. I have almost no sympathy for them at all, because this is the result of a series of bad decisions and a series of actually like being rude to people over the years. Like, this is a result of them being nasty to people a lot of ways. Do they really think that NDAs are going to protect them forever? They're not. So, anyways, it has been absolutely fascinating, because this was definitely not in my bingo card for the first part of 2025. But Meghan and Harry, I don't know how they'll survive the next year with their reputation at all. It's kind of tattered. And the best part, guys, is apparently one of the pitches was Harry talking to people while drinking and reviewing cocoa. And I gotta say, that is somewhat what we're doing today. I didn't use my cocoa maker just because I wanted more, so you could get that little bit on top. But we got double chocolate here from Starbucks. And yeah, I just was like, I feel like Harry stole my ideas. He stole my ideas, or somebody from their team did. Either way, that wasn't a great idea either, to be quite honest, because there's not that much hot cocoa out there in terms of variety, at least here in the States. So, anyways, big week here. Another one, Harry and Meghan. It's been just a dumpster fire of 2025. So let's get into it. We got Desert Mermaid, one of our members, saying, "Good morning, all. I heard rumors Netflix is going to scrap Misha's entirely and that'll never air. What do you think?" No, I think it would be worse if it never aired at this point. If they hit it, let's say, and never aired it or never sent a trailer, sure. But I think at this point, like, they're gonna have to air it. They're gonna have to air it. It would probably be cheaper for them to, at the end of the day. They've already have it in the can. Like, they might get a better tax write-off for not airing it, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Donna Quinn became a YouTube member. Why, thank you so much, Donna. I hope you enjoy it, because I was going to have this week, guys, a members only like reaction party to Meghan's show, and I had to cancel that. I mean, she kind of ruined my week, and then her week got ruined. So it all sort of worked out in the end, you could say. Sharon said, "It's been said that for someone like Meghan, attention is more important than money. What do you think about this?" I would say almost no. I think Meghan really likes the money. She really likes the money. I mean, that's part of the reason why they left the royal family, is that 2 million pounds per year, 2 to 3 million pounds, was not enough for her to live on. She needed infinitely more. So that's sort of the catalyst for many things that have happened with them. But yeah, like when it comes to money, I think that's very important to her. I think she wants to live that luxurious lifestyle. Do I think she loves the attention? Yes. But for Meghan, I think it's sort of a double-edged sword, because she hates the negative attention. She hates and despises that. And that's why she's constantly putting out puff pieces. Because there was a piece yesterday, I almost shared it, but I think then the Vanity Fair piece overshadowed it. So maybe they knew it was coming. That Meghan, oh, look, she's helping Posse, a brand in Australia. She's put it on the map, guys. The Meghan effect is real. And I'm like, wow, you guys are trying really hard to make fetch happen, aren't you? And then that other article came out and just totally wrecked that, because I think the Meghan effect is very minimal. Yeah, your brand might get more attention, and maybe that's helpful, but might be other things too. And are more people buying it is always a question. And are they buying it because of Meghan, or because they don't want to be like Meghan, or they did see something they like? That's always possible. Like, guys, I will say I like the Veronica Beard look that Meghan had arriving in Colombia. I almost got it when it was on sale, but decided not to. But it's one of those things where it's like, I genuinely did like it. So if people like something, sure, but guess what? They're probably not styling it the way Meghan did, because Meghan has horrible style. She can pick sometimes some individually good pieces, but her style is horrific. So Gail says Meghan in this photo leading the lamb to the slaughter, just a saying. Yeah, that that photo is particularly horrific. I think that she, like, her hair looks ratty and awful. And I know it's partly just her background and everything, but seriously, the hair looks terrible. It looks bad. So I just don't understand why. And if you guys don't know what we're referring to here, sorry, I'm looking off screen here trying to find my little folder with my pictures in it that I was sharing with you guys yesterday. There we go. Nope, it's not that one. But I won't spend too long on it, but I do have, it's just like one of those things where I'm like, wow, Meghan just does not look good. There we go. So if you guys are wondering, and it's just like, I don't think they're like talking about how in love they are and everything. And it's like, I really don't think they have a healthy dynamic. I'm sorry, her hair is awful. This dress is awful. He looks like he's trying to adjust himself or something. Like, it's just weird looking. It's just super duper weird. All right. So we have Kaza says, got to take my son to driver's ed on Saturday, so I'll catch the replay. Hello, my RNN peeps. We got Lizzie B. Good morning, Ms. Brittany in chat. We got teacher Ray Samantha from the Philippines. We got Elizabeth Wenz that says, wishing everyone, especially those affected by the cruel California fires, hugs and prayers from Manitoba, Canada. Great to see Catherine out and about again. Not so much Harry and Meghan. Yes, Harry and Meghan. I'm glad that Harry and Meghan stuff came at the end of the week so Catherine could really have the beginning of the week. I thought that was great because Catherine came out on Tuesday. The disaster of Harry and Meghan came out on Friday. All right. So we have Azima. Hi from Bristol. We have Monarchy. Good morning, all. Happy Saturday. 48 degrees here in California. Glad the firefighters have cool weather to work in as they heroically continue to fight fires. Yes. Wendy says, good morning, and asks, are you familiar with Tom and Lorenzo's fashion site? Tom is quoted in the article, and Meghan is definitely a source for their site. I have not been paying much attention. Sorry, guys. When the weather, we're having a bit of warmer weather, and so when the weather changes, it seems to affect my allergies sometimes, because that's fine yesterday. Anyways, I'm not familiar with them, but I'm not surprised either about what they said. It's like Meghan is somebody who prepares entirely. So the idea that she went into the royal family completely blind is ridiculous. And I think that's 100% true. I think anyone with half a brain knows she didn't just go, I didn't know how to curtsy. I didn't know. Like, give me a break. Nobody believes that. It becomes more unbelievable by the day, especially because she has such attention to detail, as she previously told people or somebody. So, yeah. All right. We have Wendy, hoping you are all doing well this cold winter morning. Why, thank you. But I will have to check it out because I'm curious who they are and maybe a bit about that. But I just think it's funny that nobody apparently in Montecito likes them at all. Like, I mean, you get the sense that really nobody likes them. We have Koala. Good day, everyone. We have Joan G. Good morning. We got Water here as well. And Carol. We have Melissa. And we have S. Kiker. And we have Terry here as well. Margaret. We have Carol. Vanity Fair's article that Brittany revealed that Vanity Fair was still finessing Meghan's reputation. On the whole, it listed all their misdeeds. Brittany analysis was spot on as usual. Why, thank you. Yeah, honestly, it's a very weird article because it sort of praises them and gives them they have good quotes from people every once in a while, but also filled with, yeah, she sent a bunch of people to therapy. Yeah, she can't make decisions. Yeah, she flounders. Yeah, she's scared of her shadow, kind of. And you just get a sense of two people who are insanely inept. I mean, basically, they said Harry sits I pulled it up and I put it in the video if you guys missed it. But they mentioned that Harry really likes Polo and that's his whole thing. And so it's he's the South Park video. There's a bit of South Park where he's literally running around the front yard going, respect our privacy while playing Polo. And so it's That is 100% what goes on in Harry's brain every single day, probably. It's just a pony going in circles. Like, I mean, it's hard. It's hard. And like, you don't want to be rude, but the article basically says he's dumb. Like, that's the only thing you can read from it is that he's lazy and dumb. He's lazy because he doesn't want to do anything other than the royal stuff. And apparently he is inept at doing anything else. And he basically has nothing going on upstairs. So, like, if you're a potential business investor, she's a hot mess. Nobody likes her. And he's dumb as a brick. Like, they're finished. Like, seriously, who would sign them at this point? And they don't even have any connection to his family anymore. So, yeah. I mean, I would love to have somebody in the British when he's walking into the court going, Harry, is Polo the only thing in your head? Or something like that. Okay, is Meghan really the mean girl? Like, they need to answer questions. It makes it look worse that they don't answer questions. Monarchy says, happy to be here, dashing in and out while doing laundry. I gotta do that too. Roxanne says, good morning. We have S. Kiker. I really hope Brittany can pull away from the mic when she sips her cocoa today. Maybe not, guys. We will try. Kelly says, good morning, everyone from Dillon, Florida. Hope everyone is well. We also have K Coffee from Florida, BD Trend from Cali, Water from saying hello to everyone. We got Gina B over here from Las Vegas. Do you think things can get any worse for Harry and Meghan? I mean, they can always get worse. They can always get worse. But like, this is really bad. This is just really bad. There's just no other way to frame it other than it's bad. It's sort of funny. And like somebody was putting in the comments, I happened to look through YouTube, and they're like, well, they keep writing these articles and Harry and Meghan keep thriving. And I'm like, they're not thriving. They really are not thriving. You'll notice that even though they were dropped by Spotify, nobody picked them up except for a year later with Lemonada. And it was really like, she hasn't done anything for them. It's like a dead deal, it looks like. Like, how in the world can she not come up with a podcast? Well, we know because they did the bid on Spotify, and apparently she can't rub two sticks together and start a fire. Like, she's completely inept at getting anything done. So this weird thing too that they're trying to go, oh, she's such a hard worker. And I'm like, they signed the deal in like December or the fall of 2020, and it took her until August of 2022 to release one single episode. I mean, they had one little one in between, but like one episode. And like, then she just did 12. They were all so heavily edited and heavily produced that they lacked any feeling of authenticity. Like, you could actually take a breathy pause here. Like, you could feel the script. Because Meghan's not a decent actress. So when she takes these breathy long pauses or like laughs or whatever, like you feel the scriptedness of it. There's nothing authentic about it, and authenticity sells. But when it comes to things getting worse, I mean, like, the only thing that could really probably save their reputation at this point is divorce, to be quite honest. Like, I think them together as a couple is a joke. Like, they are a joke in the industry, I think. They would have to move. They would have to move. And they may get to that point where they just abandon everything and move. They've decided they made enough money. But Meghan wants the attention. So, and she's the one I think who really wanted to move to Montecito in the first place. Because basically they say Meghan makes all the decisions and Harry is just basically a dunderhead who is perfectly willing to be led around by literally have Meghan lead him around by the nose. He is just devoid of any sense of man. I guess you could say he's just a child who needs to be led around. He doesn't want to make any decisions. He doesn't want to do anything except for some charity stuff, because that's apparently, again, all he's capable of doing. Like, he comes off in this article as absolutely pathetic. She's inept. He's pathetic. So they are, yeah. I mean, but things can always get worse because they don't modify their behavior at all. Meghan's still terrible to staff. And you can't be still terrible to staff and expect to have your reputation be intact. That's not how this is going to work. All right. So we have a Junebug here and Gemini and Patricia. And we have Monica as well and Chantal and Laners here. We have JP. Good morning from Ontario. Azima says, where is Harry? So this whole thing is sort of interesting because Harry does come across less like the awful person in the situation. Like, basically, everybody is on the same page. Meghan is, and in my opinion, she is being essentially described as sort of an awful human being who can be nice when she needs to be, but then can be completely and utterly nasty to you when you cross her. So that's Meghan Markle. It's hard to avoid that conclusion anymore. Hollywood Reporter came out and said a lot of the same things. They can't make decisions. Their decisions are always bad. Like, and she's a bully. He's affable. People like him. They hate her. They like him and hate her. And so, like, that's the worldwide conclusion at this point. That's what everybody's saying, like, time and time again. So this Vanity Fair piece just sort of confirmed what we had already heard. Like, again, it's like again and again and again. I mean, you got to feel sorry for those poor Sussex Squad people, because they got to be like, if they're like, our leaders are gods, like they're being tarnished in the media. I'm like, yeah, because they were awful people to people. But Harry is just, I think, sorry, try to avoid the cough. Harry is just, again, comes across better, and so people just ignore him because he's dumb. Mir Inali gave a tip here from, it looks like probably, I would guess, India, somewhere around that region, or maybe Bangladesh. Why, thank you so much. You are so kind to do that this morning. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we have Lola La says, hi, hope all doing well. Happy Saturday from Stockholm. So we got Deborah here as well, and Esther. Oh, S. Kiker says, Carol, it was a good video going over the VF. Why, thank you. Why, thank you. Yes, and Harry will be in the UK this week for his court case. One of his court cases, as Carol points out. And so, court case against the Sun. And I mean, what was so awful is that, he admits he doesn't go to the UK more just because he wants to shore up his court case. So it's like, if you can't test the premise, then the case should be thrown out. If you can come to the UK and be perfectly and completely fine, like, yeah. And if he's going to be fine, then he doesn't need the protection. So if he's so scared that he'll be fine, like, that's such a, just such an awful thing to do, to deny your father seeing his grandchildren because, you need to win your court case. But I think he's completely and utterly unable to make a decision. And he's completely led by the nose by her because he doesn't want to make a decision because he is a child. Like, the only way you could read this as well is that he's an absolute freaking child. And like, that's not attractive in the slightest. And then what is the other thing? And he's too scared to upset mommy or something. That's why he can't go. It's just ridiculous. We have Janine here as well, and Wendy, Rose. We have Marcel, Kelly, if I didn't get you earlier, Siba. I'm just going through these a bit quickly just so we can make sure to get to as many comments as possible, because sometimes we get a bit bogged down. We got Katie. Congrats on 172,000 subscribers. Why, thank you. This year has been very good so far. Thank you, Harry and Meghan. It's so funny because the Sussex Squad people will go, well, Harry and Meghan are the only reason you're successful or something. I'm like, well, kind of, sort of. They're the epic train wreck everybody wants to watch. So thank you, Harry and Meghan. I'm perfectly willing to say that you guys are the disaster that keeps on giving. Francis, hey, Francis. Hello, Brittany. Always great to see you live. I hope you're enjoying your kitty this morning. We have Darnie, and we have Creative Chaosify and Caro. And Teacher Ray Samantha says the Polo on Netflix really flopped. No one is talking about it anymore. Yeah, it was honestly bloated and awful. It was boring. It was like some of the people were awful, but wasn't that like trashy TV where you're kind of like wanting to watch the train wreck? It tried too hard to be earnest and didn't lean into the trashiness of it. Because somebody else critiqued them for that too. And I think it's incredibly true, because sometimes you have to lean in to the trashiness of something to make it work. Like, I think it was during COVID or whatever, I started watching like 90 Day Fiance, which is just trash television. It's just absolute trash garbage television. But there was an aspect of it that was sort of weirdly fascinating. And the thing is, it's like they leaned into the trashiness of it. Harry and Meghan tried to like make it earnest. So it's like you either have to be earnest and show it in a different way, or just have to lean into the trash. But it just wasn't good. It was not good. And nobody promoted it. Why don't you have those polo players out there promoting it? Well, I think the problem is probably, now that I'm thinking about it, is that Meghan would be too worried they would take attention off of her and Harry because it's their project. And we all need to know she speaks Spanish. Okay, so here's the thing. I didn't I didn't mention this in the video last night, and I wish I would have, but maybe I'll save it for later. Guys, Meghan does not speak fluent Spanish. She can speak some Spanish, but she is not fluent. How do we know this? Because she didn't speak it in Colombia, really. She had a couple of prepared things that she probably practiced in the mirror for 45 minutes to make sure she got it right. So, in that documentary, Harry is going, well, she speaks Spanish, because I think he's dumb enough to believe she speaks Spanish. So he's like perpetuating the message that he's kind of sort of dumb. But I mean, this is like them. She's leading him on because he's too much of a dunderhead to do anything and he wants to be treated like a child. And then yet also be the guy like chasing the dragons. But I mean, that's very childish. That's very childish. I don't know. There's just, oh, golly, between the hair and like basically being identified as a guy who's just like was willing to give up everything and just have his wife do everything. It's just like, ugh. A good dynamic that does not make. Why do that says good morning from Manitoba, Canada. We also have a Hollister denim dress. It's a horrible article with far too much fawning and very little new information. Actually, I had quite a bit of new information, I would argue. I feel like it dissected more of the Spotify behind the scenes things. We got a couple more bits about how much Montecito hates them. We got more bullying allegations because the thing is that you sort of need those additional things. Like this is all building blocks of a case, basically saying Meghan Markle is a bully, allegedly. This is like case after case after case. And you need this because people push back and they go, oh no, they're just targeting her because she's a woman of color. And it's like, no, that's not what they're doing at all. This is a consistent pattern of behavior. And sometimes when you get people like Meghan who make her entire self a victim narrative, and it goes along with what a lot of people, let's say she kind of capitalized off the BLM movement and everything, she 100% did. People bought into that a lot. So what you have to do sometimes, and people are more open to this than they were maybe even a year or two ago, is sort of reframing the thing, going over and over and over again. We have different sources constantly confirming she undermines staff. She's difficult with them. She makes them go to therapy. Like they have to take leave. They have to literally escape her presence and go to therapy. That is how horrifically awful she is to work for. So you got to wonder who are the gluttons of punishment who are more than willing to just stick around. Like I question their character a lot. The people who stick with them a long period of time, I question their character because apparently like Harry, Meghan, well, particularly her, he's nice to work for. She's awful. So you get sort of two different sides. But I think the Spotify thing, the funny thing with Harry, like, I mean, like the stupidity of just the idea of Harry interviewing sociopaths, like whoever they label, and they label these people this. I don't know if they are Mark Zuckerberg, Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump. I don't know if or care if they are, to be quite honest. And because he went through trauma and he came out perfectly fine. But he wants to interview other people who had trauma and see why they didn't come out fine. Do you know how egotistical that is? That's insanely egotistical. I wish I had pulled that comment out a bit earlier, but that's insanely like maniacal egotistical to go, well, I turned out okay, so let's just look at the riffraff who didn't. Like, come on, those men are successful, you aren't. So maybe it's sociopathy, even though it can be terrible in some instances, as in the case of Vladimir Putin, for sure. And other people, it can lead them to great success because I can't remember the difference between being a sociopath, a psychopath. Like there's different kind of variations, but it's like, maybe they're able to make decisions. Maybe they don't need a woman to lead them around by the foot or the neck or whatever in order to get things done. They are able to get things done because maybe they are sociopaths and that's what makes them successful. And you, my friend, are not a success. So like the egotistical idea that he's sitting there going, oh, well, I came out of my trauma so good. I'm like, oh, what a dork. Okay. So Stephanie, thank you so much for the super sticker this morning. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. And we also have a Team Wales. Yes. M should have collaborated with women's shelters to showcase local cuisine, allowing viewers to donate or buy recipes. Instead, she revealed her pretentious, self-indulgent true self with that show. Yes, I think the show, I mean, the bad thing is the show will still go on and it still won't play well because obviously Meghan Markle isn't likable. But the other thing is that it just came across as so pretentious, so out of touch, and so 2014. I've said the same thing. It's so nice when other articles say the same thing. And maybe that's why you think there's no new information, because I have shared similar thoughts that Meghan is stuck in 10 years ago. And that's the same thing they said. She's stuck in 2014. And that's what the show reflects, is the 2014 mentality mostly. And the world has moved on since then, but Meghan Markle hasn't. And there is some truth in the fact that when you become famous, you're kind of stuck there mentally in some ways. That's why some people say, Taylor Swift has a bit of that. You could argue that Mean Girl high school streak a bit. Not saying she does, just saying I've heard people say that, because she became uber famous when she was sort of in her last years of high school. So you kind of start or regress to where you were when you initially got really famous. So I think that could be the case. But yeah, Meghan could have played it a bunch of different ways. And I feel like she played it the most pretentious, horrible way possible. Look how wealthy I am. I'm in my kitchen and these incredibly wealthy jewelry and clothes. Cause we all bake and cook with $50,000 worth of jewelry on us. That's what we all do all the time. I mean, I do have my Ana Lucia here and here, which is lovely and amazing. But Meghan is just one of those things where it's like, I always feel like she buys like kind of dumb trinket jewelry and it all sort of looks the same. And it's just like she wants to buy a ton of it. And we all have our things, but it's like, that one time when she went to Eugenie's wedding and had 3 or 4 massive rings on all her fingers. And I'm like, why? Why? That just looks so ridiculous. So I think people it's not going to get any better for her for sure. For sure. So thank you so much, Team Wales. We got Tanya. Hello, Ohio in the house. We got Raquel. And Janine says, yes, the article was awful. I had a hard time following along. They did just jump around. They did. It was very strange, to be quite honest. I've written articles. I don't think I've ever written anything that long in terms of like a news piece. But I've written articles. I've interviewed people. And maybe, I might not have done it the best way. I sort of learned on the job and I just kind of made up what I was doing, to be quite honest. But it felt like there was no flow to it at all. And it was just like, oh, now we're skipping over to Montecito. Now we're skipping over here. And I just wonder if something was cut out that maybe made it flow a bit better. But it was just weird because it's like they would basically say Meghan was an awful human being. And this other lady go, well, she was so nice. And so it's like, okay, the bad thing is that when you're that polarizing, people either need to go to therapy after dealing with you, or somebody says you're nice. There's some sort of disconnect. Either the nice person, who I would argue is in the minority, and probably the wrong person just didn't see the stuff, or maybe they're used to it, or maybe they're just hoping for more jobs, are more willing to go, oh, she was just so nice. And the people who had a horrific time are like, yeah, no, she's awful. So I don't know where everything falls, but not a good look. Yeah, and so it was. You are so brave. Thank you for all that you do, Brittany. You are welcome. You are welcome. Yeah, I would like to do sort of a shorter, condensed version of these are the kind of the 5 things to know from the video, or from the talk, because I know not everybody will be there. And sometimes it's nice to okay, you watch the whole video. Now where can we go from there? Catherine said, hello, everyone. We got Lindy James. Hi, watching from Adelaide, South Australia. We got Oro. I think we said Catherine here as well, just in case I missed you. We have Olinda, and we have M. Murphy. It seems like the article started off as a puff piece and morphed into a criticism as mainstream media seems to have finally caught on to the public don't like them. I don't even think it's that. It's just you can't find beyond people who are, oh gosh, how to put it exactly, is that when you start investigating, let's say Harry and Meghan, you can't not find people who dislike them. You will find people who dislike them. You will find people who have been burned by them. So if you're interviewing people, you can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. It's going to start hitting you in different ways. And you can't just, if you're a good journalist, you can't just go and give the puff stuff. You have to look at the negative stories. Actually, it's kind of interesting because there's a couple people I follow on Instagram, and I'm just curious if they finally or not mentioned the article. No, they haven't. It's like, why didn't you mention it? I would think maybe you would, but no, they haven't mentioned it. So I find that really fascinating because it's like if you're a true journalist, and yes, you maybe had some access to Harry and Meghan, but you're too scared to lose whatever limited access you had that you're willing to not share negative stories. I mean, goodness gracious, it's just, yeah. They is you cannot avoid it. No matter how many puff pieces you put out, you can't avoid it anymore. She is an alleged bully. This has been repeated and regurgitated time and time again. So if you see the nice and sweet Meghan, you're only seeing one half of her. There's obviously a second half. These type of stories don't come out unless there is actually a kernel of truth to them. Like, when it came to the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing, I never believed it, to be quite honest, because I never heard any story of him, and I like to follow Hollywood and celebrities a bit. Never heard any story of him being rude to a woman in that way. Never, never. And so I'm like, why would he suddenly start now? Like, he's a man in his older ages, like he was 40, 50s. So I'm like, that just doesn't make a ton of sense. And that she was going around parading it. I was like, oh, that stinks to high heaven. It's like, if that was really true, you don't go around really parading it because you're embarrassed. Like, she wanted everybody to see it and know it. It was just so obvious what a manipulation tactic it was. And so, like, you can't avoid those type of things after a certain period of time. And here, Megan is finding that out. And I like what Royal T said on X, which was basically, let's see, they said the craziest thing to me about the Sussexes is that after 5 years, multiple books, articles, and employees, partners speaking out about their abusive ways and how inept they are at producing content, they still treat people badly and think they know better than everyone. It's like, this should be a wake-up call to Harry and Meghan. You guys kind of sort of suck at this. Everybody knows it. Everybody's sick of you. You need help. You're not good at this. You know how you get good at this? You hire good people and you listen to them. They don't listen to them. And they end up in a wreck. And I think they blame, sadly, their staff members for the wreck that it is. So, yeah. So, DS, thank you so much for the tip here. Says, oh my goodness, did you see Megyn Kelly's response to Harry and Meghan visiting the fires? Greatest response ever. I'm not one to cuss, but we're all thinking that. Yeah, she basically said, Harry, you're not our effing prince. And I'm like, thank you. Yes. Like, they need to stop acting like that, because when they went there, they were literally acting like royals. But they're not royals here. They're royals who live here, but not royals here. See the distinction in the language? Because we have the Greek royal family lives here from time to time. They have a place in New York. Princess Madeline lived here in Florida for a while. We've had Princess Theodora, who has lived in Los Angeles. I think Lady Frederick Windsor and her family also lived in Los Angeles for a period of time when she was working more in Hollywood. So it's like, people, like, royals are people who have connections, live in the United States. It's perfectly fine. But they're not trying to be royals of the United States. That's a crazy thing the two of them are trying to do. They're the crazy cuckoo people. They're crazy pants. Like, that's the only way to put it. That's the only way to put it. Because nobody else is kind of that dumb to be like, you know what? The United States fought a whole war over this 250 years or so ago, but they just didn't understand how wonderful royalty is. And we just need to show Harry our version of royalty, because they will love it and they will embrace it. They need crisis management. Seriously, they need some serious crisis management. They need to stop talking, and they need to, like, get real jobs. They either need to produce decent content or just get out of Hollywood. Like, my suggestion would be just get out of Hollywood. You guys can't do it anyways. Move to Texas or something. Like, actually live a private life, which you can live. Like, a lot of celebrities live very private lives in Texas and stuff, but they don't want privacy. That's exactly the opposite of what she wants, is privacy. She wants control. She wants public attention and everything, but it goes bad, and that's her issue. So yeah, it's like, No, they shouldn't be here. Harry, you're not our prince. Meghan, you're not our duchess or whatever. Go home, donate, be quiet. And that's how we all want you guys to be. Trying to be royals here is annoying and aggravating. And of course, it's also something that people should bring up with the mayor of Pasadena. So it's like if you're a local resident and you're frustrated by his taking time out of responding to the fires to give Harry and Meghan a tour of the disaster zone for no inexplicable reason, because their Archwell Foundation wants to help, the one that just has $10 million, which I realize to most people is a lot, but it's like literally nothing in this scenario. Let them know. Let them know. Because I think it was ridiculous that any city resources were expended on these two. Seriously. And that they couldn't donate their time without 6 bodyguards around them is also ridiculous. But it sounds like Harry just lives in a state of paranoia. And yeah. So Kristen M, thank you so much for the tip as well. Hey, Brittany, if Meghan turns on Harry post-divorce, how do you predict public perception will be of her at that point? Thank you. Well, Harry needs to have my suggestion to Harry right now is have a good exit strategy for your divorce because she's going to rake you over the coals. She's going to tell everybody how dumb you are. She's going to tell everybody how she had to make all the decisions because you couldn't make them, how much you failed to protect her and do all these things, how maybe, there's always been allegations of some drug use. So if that's any of that is true, I don't really think it is, but if it is, she could give those examples. Like she could destroy him and he could also, though, destroy her. If he has, let's say, video of her screaming at staff, if he has video of her screaming at him, screaming at the kids, that could help. I don't know if a divorce will necessarily help her because she has to change her behavior, and that's the one thing she seems incapable of doing. Because the big thing is that we all see like the issues continue, and it's like royalty is right. Why don't you change what you're doing? But she seems incapable of doing that. And so because she's incapable of doing that, I just don't know if she's capable of really getting the public on her side. And she could definitely turn into entirely a Amber Heard situation. And if Harry plays it like Harry, the way he gets sympathy and the way he comes out of the divorce better is going, I was manipulated, I was lied to, I was told things and made decisions based on what my wife told me that turned out were only half true, partially true, not true at all. That I was pushed to do things. I lost time with my family because she wouldn't let me do things. That's how he comes out of the divorce better. That's how he does it. Now, whether or not he can actually do that is a huge question, but that is Harry's route. Meghan's route is to just basically trash him as much as humanly possible. And given that she's been entirely willing to do that to his family and her family, again, Harry should have a good exit strategy to get out of this thing somewhat unscathed, but I think they'll both be kind of in a pickle. All right, Monica, thank you so much for the tip. Good morning. I just want to say thanks for your lives and videos. I really enjoy them. I especially like how you talk about all the royal families. Why, thank you. I enjoy talking about all of them. I wish I had more time to edit videos, do videos and edit them to do them more. I just don't necessarily totally have time for that. So that's why I love the Crown Report. It's just a great way to get and cover all the royal families. They all do great work in their own individual ways. And so it's just so fun. And I just enjoy it. Wish I had more time to do more, you could say, and hopefully maybe that'll happen in the future. But right now, we have what we have. We have Julie. Thank you so much for the super sticker. And Cheryl T in Oklahoma. Good morning, RNN fam. Good morning, Miss Brittany and Miss Pippa. Goose, Vinny, Misty, and Charlotte say Wolf. And Miss P off to an adoption event with Princess Charlotte. Enjoyed all the content this week. Why, thank you so much, Cheryl, and for your tip. And I hope Miss Charlotte or Princess Charlotte finds a lovely new home. That would be absolutely amazing for her, I'm sure. All right. Whew. Carol says, I definitely agree. It was more Meghan's actions that were concentrating. Yes, they're definitely more concentrating on Meghan than Harry. And that's been sort of fascinating. But I think, again, she's the problem. She's the problem. Lee Foster says, "Good morning, Brittany. Have you seen the Sussex Squad pushing the hashtag Meghan Queen of Philanthropy?" No, but they really should stop. Like, it's almost getting to the point where they're really starting to let their crazy show because you can't defend this anymore. It's like, stop trying to. It's just not working. Just accept that she's not the perfect saintly figure that you thought she was or that you were led to believe or whatever. Just admit that. Stop trying to make her into Saint Megan. It's not working. It makes you sound delusional, to be quite honest. It makes you sound just completely devoid from reality. And it just makes you sound sort of crazy. So let your crazy die and just embrace the reality of the situation, which is that Megan is probably a bully and she's reaping some of the impacts of that. So we have Gemini here. We got Nana's ranch. NDA should be respected unless you want to be sued. Only illegal activity can be disclosed around an NDA. I mean, that's very true. It's not like they're giving away too much, but I think to a certain extent, I mean, if they want to risk it and they're like, you know what, screw it. If we were sued, we'd reveal more or something like that, then maybe. I don't know. I can't obviously give anybody any legal advice. Don't take my advice. We have Sandra here and Tammy and Rebecca and Monarchy. Haven't bought Vanity Fair in years, going out this morning. Yes, I wanted to get one yesterday, but they didn't have one at the Barnes & Noble I went to, so I'll have to look at a different one because I'm like, I'd kind of like a physical copy just because it's always good to have a physical one. So Marcel Love says, I'm in beautiful Caribbean Guyana in South America on a vacation. I've actually been to Guyana. So that's a very interesting country to get to because it's very rare, I think, for people to go there. So I hope you're enjoying your time. Teacher Ray Samantha says the Sussex Polo documentary reality, no one is watching. I think we got that question earlier. Let's see. Water says NDA should not protect toxic bosses. I agree with that 100%. NDA, so like if I had an employee I hired, I may have them sign an NDA to protect like business practices, to protect IP or like personal information or those sorts of things. You want to have a level of protection against somebody who, let's say, it might not be through any fault of your own, but the separation ended up being like they wanted something out of like as they left or something, and you didn't give it to them, and they just became like aggressive in that or whatever. And NDA is there to protect you from like, kind of slander type of thing. But if you were treated poorly, an NDA should not be there to protect your boss from the fact that they were horrible bosses. I don't think that's how NDAs should be used. I feel like that is protecting and perpetuating a cycle of abuse, in my opinion. That would be my suggestion. Now, legally, I have no idea. No idea. I'm not a legal expert. So if you signed an NDA and want to just, break it, don't ask me. But I think when it comes to Harry and Meghan, if they're keeping people from talking about their terrible behavior with NDAs, I just don't think that's a good look. That's a good look. Again, NDA should be like, you're working for Gwyneth Paltrow and she likes to go to the bathroom with the door open. I have no, just making that up. Trying to think of like an innocuous, weird, private thing that you wouldn't want people to know, I guess. And I was like, that I would understand being covered by an NDA. But other things, no. If you're terrible to other people, you should not be protected through the legal system. Now, sometimes, to be fair, sometimes bosses are tough, but there's obviously toxicity, very different. Trina, thank you so much for the tip this morning. Bone money from Miss Pippa from Max Wolf. The pic of Princess Catherine looking up at the side of the hospital sign was poignant. It really was. I do love that picture. I think that was a fantastic shot. Of course, Christopher Jackson got it. And it's just a reminder of, I'm sure, like, it was very different for her. Because I think she mentioned, which I thought was really cool, is like, I always came in the back. I always came in via a secret entrance so people wouldn't know I was there. But this time I got to come in the front. And I'm sort of at least past my initial cancer journey. I mean, to be honest, we don't know what type of cancer she has. And I understand somebody said, well, it doesn't matter because she's going to try to raise awareness for all cancer. And I think it is good because it stops people from like endlessly speculating. Because if we know, let's say the cancer has a strong case of reoccurrence, then people are always going to be looking for signs of reoccurrence. And that will follow her forever. Like she will still be like, she'll still have people will still be watching for reoccurrences because that's a possibility with cancer. But it sort of stops that endlessly speculating. Oh, you had this one. Oh, this one's really aggressive. So what does that mean? And stuff like that. Or getting inappropriate questions asked of their kids and stuff. So it kind of protects them in a way to not get into the nitty gritty details. But I think for her to go in the front, to see the sign and to go, okay, I walked through these doors. This time I'm walking through a different door, but it's going to be good. It's going to be better. It's going to be awesome. So I think that's great for Catherine. I'm so glad she could go. Like I'm really hoping to see more of her. But I don't know if she'll ever. Somebody mentioned she may never get back to a full schedule, and I'm just kind of sort of wondering if that's true. So, I mean, I'm hoping for more because it's just fun to see her. Obviously, she's a huge person within the royal space for sure. So to not have her there is, of course, a little bit sad, you could say, but we shall see. We shall see. But glad she's doing better. All right, Ruperto says, Brittany, you are so darn sexy. It's smart, it's sexy. Love the show. Why, thank you. Why, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. That's very kind of you to say this morning. So let's keep going. Roberto, thank you. He also says, Azima says, I'm thinking they might keep Harry and Meghan on shorter contract and less money. Yes, if they keep them, it'll be shorter contract, less money. A lot less money. I think Netflix is very embarrassed by the amount of money they paid for these two dunderheads because they really suck at this. I mean, yeah. So Netflix is thinking to themselves, like, oh my gosh, we just like, it's one thing to sign Shonda Rhimes. That made sense. But they also signed these two. And that's just embarrassing. Lily Shim says, love the mug, Brittany. Good morning from Florida. Why, thank you. Yes, this is my Germany mug. See, we have Neuschwanstein there, Brandenburg Gate, which I've seen now. And is that I don't know what that is. Oh, I think that's the Reichstag. So good. I try to get these as much as possible, but sometimes I don't like them either. I'm like, I wasn't in love with the Prague one. Now I kind of wish I'd gotten it, but I honestly had run out of space. So it's probably a good idea to. It's just an excuse to go back to Prague and maybe I'll get it. I like the Carlo Vardi one though. Because we went there for an evening and I really like that one. I really wish I'd gotten that mug. Iman Hadamrami says, hello, everyone. The Markle Sparkle sound funny after the disaster of the beginning of the year, for sure. Yeah, it's kind of even more funny. Monarchy says, it's shocking Netflix put out a series by Michelle Obama without any PR that I saw, yet they're doing so much for the wife. Thoughts? I guess it depends on how the contracts are signed. And I don't think Netflix is doing really that much PR. It's just because people have been talking about it, but very negatively. Like, this is not the kind of PR you want. This is not the type of PR you want. Apparently, Meghan was planning on doing some maybe like Kelly Clarkson or something like that. So we'll have to see if those come back around for March. But I just don't see her being the next Martha Stewart, especially now with all the negative stories and stuff, which she still probably will never answer, which is crazy. Like, they need to have a real interview, a real tough interview, and see how they do. They just don't want to do it. They're too cowardly. I mean, I feel like Jane Pauley pushed them pretty good in her little interview for what she could. And she definitely, I think, did not follow the script, and Meghan was not happy. So Siva said, thank you so much for the tip. I've heard Harry's been advised to put all his titles in ambiance before the divorce so she doesn't keep a title. That would be very interesting. I mean, I think he's as obsessed about them as she is in some ways. And I still like some person in the article. Like, it was weird the people they pulled out in the article, because somebody was like, well, if I married into the royal family, like, and I was treated the way she was, I would want all the stuff. And I'm like, what? People are so weird. So if Harry does that, that would be very interesting. I would find that very fascinating. So, like, he should give up I mean, they should have given up the titles eons ago, because they look ridiculous. And honestly, quite frankly, really stupid, going, Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, produced. Guys, you guys are pathetic at producing. Stop doing that. It's just embarrassing at this point. Water says, I find it funny that they are mad at Meta for ruining integrity by giving back free speech when they themselves have no integrity. So true. So true. Ghost says, I have said it before, but the dark colors really are more flattering in the videos. Why, thank you. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Depends. Videos versus in person? Yeah. K Coffee says, I thought Harry's allowance was 6 million. Pounds, I think it was about 2 to 3. I could be wrong there, but I think Charles only got maybe like 30 million per year for the duchy. Part of it had to go to him, staff, maintaining homes and all those sorts of things. So, like in terms of what Harry got yearly from his dad, it was about, $2 to $3 million. Same amount that Catherine and William got. Denise Cloud Miller says, good morning from Louisiana. What do you think they're doing and thinking this morning? They're probably thinking, oh crap, not again. And they're like, she's probably furiously scrolling through Twitter and stuff, looking at all the negative comments. And then she goes into her little Sussex Squad place and it's like, they love me there. And then all the negativity, like it's got to be really messing with her because she desperately wants positive press. Like she's obsessed with positive press. Mary says, morning, lovely Brittany. Why, thank you. Carol says, if it was 2020, yes. Now, no, Meghan has developed a toxic personality over the last 5 years. Yeah. So Meghan always had this. And so it's just coming to the forefront. Brittany, what she start in Australia? I haven't heard anything. I'm not sure either what that was referring to. So I do apologize. Carol says karma is real. Yes. Old school millennial says, I wish I could live on even 1 million pounds per year and serve my country from behind the scenes or my eldest royal sibling plus a royal cottage home. Meghan squandered the opportunity of a lifetime. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Mary says, what a week. Catherine says, imagine if she goes to the politics. She never survived the first week. I think any dream of politics is well and truly dead. She would not survive. We have Carmen here. Bebop says, the brand may experience temporary boost in publicity, but it doesn't convert into sales. Exactly. That's the problem I see more and more is that Harry and Meghan get a lot of attention, but it's not converting into dollars for anyone but the press. Azima says, does Meghan brush her hair? Doesn't seem like it, at least in this picture. Doesn't really look like it. Her hair is a disaster. Monarchy says, it's been reported for years that Hollywood is like high school. The cool girls have turned on her. It's over. We can read the room, unlike her. Yes. Nancy Marie says, Harry and Meghan have worn out their welcome. I could see a lot more, but that's basically what it is. Yeah, exactly. When you don't have a good work ethic and you produce subpar content, they will give you some bandwidth for a while, but like Hollywood only indulges certain things when somebody is successful or they're artistic or something. After a certain point, if you're not those things, they're just kind of like, well, what are we supposed to do with you? You're inept. Like they are only could be trash reality TV level. That is their level. They can't be anything else in the industry. She can't act. He might actually be better than her in that. I'm not sure. And they try to do earnest documentaries, which don't work. They should just have stick to kind of trashy tabloid TV. That's literally their level. We have MJ Clark here. Phoebe says, hey, lovely. I love your content. Why, thank you so much. BD Trend says, I also think the Vanity Fair cover photo, Meghan's purse is hanging open. Not sure, but it looks like it. Could be true. Carol says, it is nothing compared to the Kate effect. That is true as well. I think the Kate effect is stronger, but it depends too. It's not always a sure thing. So Mary says, Brittany is the best royal commentator. Why, thank you. Water says, did you see when she visited the Altadena charity, the girl didn't want to hug. Yeah, she's like, didn't want to hug. She had her arms sort of crossed or in front of her, it looked like. And Meghan was like rubbing her arms. Meghan's incessant need to touch people needs to stop. She needs to stop touching people. It's weird. And she was also essentially, I think, merching in that event too. So here's the thing. Tessa Dunlop rightly said, because of Mexit, because Harry and Meghan left a life of pure charity for pure greed, even when they do charity, everybody's wondering if they have an angle. And then Meghan goes and essentially proves that by doing charity, but with obviously labeled bags that say our place to look like she's merching. So I'm like, girl, come on, like read the room. But of course, she can't read the room. Nana says, I wonder if Harry skipped a beat with Tom Hoffman coming in on immigration. Yeah, like I'm sure he's a little bit freaked out about the immigration issue. So, because that's going to come back to bite them. Okay. And I got to say, too, just looked, People Magazine has not done a single story about the negative story about Harry and Meghan, which I just find so annoying. It's like you either stand and publish everything or don't. Because even I will cover, you could say, negative stories on Catherine and William. But I respond to them because you have to sometimes respond to things. And it doesn't look good if you ignore a story. Now, I ignore stupid things like, although I have done technically a video or two on it about the whole Rose rumor and everything, I ignore that because it's sheer stupidity. I wanted to ignore hashtag where is Kate because it was sheer stupidity, but sometimes you have to respond. Sam MC says, a good cold morning to you from a farm on the edge of the Canadian Rockies. Why, thank you. That sounds kind of lovely. We have Denise here from Bali, Malaysia. Or sorry, Indonesia. I'm slow today. CCC from Sweden. Jane says this dress is super inappropriate for her age. And it's just poorly designed, in my opinion. This dress, I think, is horrifically poorly designed, and she doesn't look good in it. Just saying. We have Jenny says, been a while since I caught a live. Hello from Portland, Oregon. We have Mary as well. Hi, Sam. Beautiful location. You have Junker. A hi from Luxembourg. I'm hoping to get to Luxembourg this year. So we will see. Bebob says, are they going to do anything about the situation in Asheville, North Carolina? No, of course not, because they don't care. That's the thing. When a disaster is so impactful for you that you have to change things, then you kind of set the precedence that every disaster you might have to change things. Because she's not from Pacific Palisades. She's not from Altadena. She's, I think, from Woodville or something like that. Because there's a whole different sections of Los Angeles. Because Los Angeles County is huge. It's massive. So even though you were close to that area, like her childhood home wasn't impacted. I was just reading an article in the Daily Mail from the Deschanel sisters, so Emily and Zoe Deschanel, and their childhood home burned down in the Pacific Palisades. And I'm like, that's sad. I was like, as far as I'm aware, Meghan hasn't lost a former home, and I think probably their parents still live there. Maybe I don't know, but it's hard. All right, we have Christina. Good morning, everyone. Can I please ask for prayers for my pup, Sadie? She's not doing well. Thank you. Yes. Oh, prayers for Sadie, Christina. I hope she gets better soon. We have Shadish says, awake and ready to play from very cold Virginia. We got Phoebe. We all love Brittany's content. Red News Network. Hi from UK. Why, thank you. Old School Millennial says, Meghan does like those cold shoulders, tops, and skinny dresses because she believes it gives her a sexy, graceful, sexy allure. Serious question. I find Catherine's modest yet tastefully sexy. Yes, I don't find Meghan's looks particularly sexy. I feel like a lot of them look like they're strangling her. And I don't understand why she thinks her shoulders are her best features, I guess. I mean, I guess they could kind of sort of be. I don't know. I think personally her face is probably her best feature. Limbs definitely not. Yeah. So Carol says their relationship is based on obsession, not love. Yeah. It's not a good love. It's like, and it's at one point somebody will get tired of. Chatty Kathy says, I'll be listening while I paint a blessings box for my community. Aw, I hope you enjoy that. Kathy says, Prince William and Princess Catherine had a piece in the papers regarding their the love that had strengthened over the period of Catherine's cancer diagnosis. So Harry and Meghan copied them. Well, I do think this article was in the works for a while. So not everything is a tit for tat. Sometimes things just come out around the same time. Sometimes things are, sometimes things aren't. So you can't, Catherine and William would not have known about the Vanity Fair piece. Although, unless one of their former staff members was contacted about it and they told Catherine and William about it. But it makes sense for Catherine and William because this was around the time a year ago Catherine announced her surgery. So it makes sense to sort of do a retrospective. Harry and Meghan, it's been 5 years since Brexit. So it actually does make sense to do a retrospective. They just happen to coincide because it's around the same time. Some of it, at least. Chantal says, people have short memories. Meghan could turn her reputation. Thoughts? I mean, she could, but she would really actually have to make massive changes in her life, and I don't think she's capable of doing that. Because the thing is, in order to sort of kind of change up how her reputation has gone and everything, she really needs to just change everything she's doing, and I don't think she wants to do that. Azuma says, the rumors of Charles changing his will, fact? No idea. Haven't seen anything like that. Don't know anything like that. No. DS says, good morning from Pensacola, Florida. We're going to get snow on Tuesday. Send me cocoa, Brittany. Just kidding. Yeah, you can get Winners. It's good. Or well, actually, I went to like TJ Maxx or Marshalls, it was, and they had a whole bunch of hot cocoa, and it was like Starbucks stuff. And I was like, okay. So I got like peppermint, which was really good, by the way. Went with marshmallows, milk chocolate. I just cleaned out and got every flavor. Because I was like, I don't know where these are from. I don't know if these will be back. Although I will say, okay, so here's the story about this Marshalls. I was in there, and to return this jacket that I got, it was like a nice leather jacket, a little bit expensive. And then I'm kind of thinking like, this was kind of a dumb thing to get. Let me go ahead and return it. And I went up to the front and I purchased my stuff first. And I think it included the hot chocolate. And then I went to return the jacket, and she was like kind of looking and being weird about it. And she's like, oh, I'm not sure that like the item number on the tag doesn't match something. And I'm like, well, it does, because I looked and made sure like the receipt things matched, and they were fine. And then it became like this whole thing where somehow it was labeled wrong on the tag in some way that was like the store's fault. And they literally had to go in I had a receipt, guys. I had the tag on the product. I never took it off. They literally had to go in the back and rewatch apparently the security footage of when I purchased it to prove I purchased it or prove that I purchased that exact thing. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what the heck is your guys' problem? Like, seriously, what do I look like to you? Like, come on now. I'm like, this is just such a waste of time. It was such a waste of time. I was so annoyed, and they even apologize. I'm like, you could at least be nice to me. Like, they did eventually return it, but I'm like, I'm in the return window. I purchased it like a week ago or something ridiculous like that. And I was so irritated. Renee says, good morning, Brittany. Enjoyed the deep dive in the Vanity Fair article. Why, thank you. Lori says, was just waking up. I'm in NC. I woke up with a fever and tested positive for COVID. I'm so sorry. I hope you get better soon. Koala says, good grief. I hope she doesn't come to Australia. Once was enough, and she was made a ASS of herself then too. So yeah, I don't think so. I don't think there's a lot of countries that are like super eager for the Meghan treatment. Sylvia's from Italy. We got Moco from España. Nana's Ranch says, I can hear Meghan begging, please don't move, Ellen. You're my only friend here. Yeah, because I can only be friends with people who are like them. Cop Watch Imperial says, Jacques Pepin could teach Meghan about a cooking show. He wears a plaid shirt like my dad used to in a small kitchen with regular plates and pans. He's very famous and wonderful French chef. That sounds lovely. Yeah. Meghan was basically merching, I think, when she was donating our place, which is, I actually really do like their cookware. It's genuinely very good. I was thinking about doing a video for something, and I might actually get more of it just because I like it. I do genuinely like it. It's so easy to clean and everything. But here's the thing. When you're going to a disaster zone to donate supplies, any pot and pan will do. You don't need to get our place pot and pans. Just any pot and pan will do. This idea that she needs our place is sort of ridiculous because it's higher end. It's more expensive. It might even be more difficult to store. Just get people something cheap that they can toss when they don't need it anymore, or they're moved to a different place or something like that. You don't need to give people like high mid-tier cookware for a temporary living situation. She also brought them makeup, which I get, but makeup to me is a tertiary concern in a crisis. You really need food, water, and shelter first. Then you need sort of like medications. That's it could be a primary or secondary concern depending on how severe the medication issue is. You need saline solution, you need menstrual supplies. Like those are important things. Makeup, not so much. Not so much. But it figures a very vain person like Meghan Markle, one of her first concerns would be, those women don't have makeup. They need makeup. Not that you don't, but good morning. What are your thoughts on the ridiculous response to Meta removing censorship from their platforms and switching to community notes? I meant to do a video on this, but obviously, guys, and I will still probably do one. The news just moves so quickly. I thought it was incredibly stupid. They are not particularly bright people, and it's just fact checking is synonymous basically with censorship, because the reality is the fact checker can obviously have an agenda themselves. And so how good are the facts that you're checking if they're not the accurate facts, you know? And or that they're not liking the facts, because they even mentioned in this article Meghan's emotional truth versus objective truth. It's like there should only be objective truth. I don't give two craps about what your emotional truth is. What is the objective truth? Objective truth, we've gone away from that. Objective truth is important, but objective truth is also something that you should be able to determine for yourself. Beware of anybody who's saying, I'm going to give you the right answer, because I give you guys suggestions and I give you guys my thoughts and everything. But my perspective is that you listen, you enjoy, you don't enjoy, and then you decide to do your own thing. Research, come to your own conclusions. You take what I take, like half of what I take, you dismiss the other half. That is fine, because I'm not teaching you how to think. Something like fact checking is there to teach you, is to give you the only one perspective. So I think it's kind of dangerous. Obviously, knowing the facts are good, but I think community notes is a better way to go about it. Mary says, we literally have everyone here from around the world. Amazing. We do. Crunchy Dragon says, when the king dies, do you think William will take Harry's titles when he becomes king? I think that's a greater possibility with William than it is with Charles, sadly. I think Charles should do it, but Charles, I think, is too much of a coward. Pam says, I've only seen their holiday card. Will they ever show Archie and Lily looking at the camera? Lily's hair looks ratty. Harry looks the same as the card a couple of years ago. I don't know. They're just weird. Monarchy says, it's slightly invigorating that others are finally catching on to the terribleness of the two. It's like the air is truly clearing this fire smoke is clearing these two out. Yeah, I think that's sort of great. I kind of, I guess, came in on sort of the good angle, because I have had my issues with the Sussex squad, like everyone, but it was less virulent than it was in like between probably 2019 and 2022. So I started my channel in 2022. I had Instagram and Twitter before that, but it wasn't doing particularly well. But I wanted to do YouTube because I can talk in the microphone for a while. But it was an awesome opportunity to just share a different perspective. And it was one of those things where I think, though, I had my issues, especially I think it was in 2023, because happened to be in Germany at the same time Harry and Meghan were, and like the Sussex squad people are apparently idiots, because even though I was in Munich, they're like, oh, she's going to stalk him in Dusseldorf. I'm like, you guys realize those are like hundreds of miles away, right? And then I'm going to be in Sweden during most of the event. So the logic and geography apparently are two things that the Sussex squad are incapable of conceiving. But anyways, the thing is that I really see less of them. I genuinely see less of them. I know there are antagonistic accounts out there. I don't really care. I've gotten to the point where I was like, you know what? I don't really need to care about these people. I have 99% more people than they do. Like, who cares? And part of it, though, too, is that it's like they're losing steam. You can't ignore these articles. You can't just say they're all bad. There's too many of them now. The stories are too consistent. There's an obvious pattern of alleged bullying going on, alleged bad behavior, multiple failures that are obvious to anybody with half a brain. You cannot sit there and go, well, they're thriving. Like, how are they thriving? They've had 3 flops in a row for Netflix. 3. Meghan's show looks horrific. It's ratioed into oblivion. Even people who aren't watching Royals watched that trailer, hated it. You got a problem. And it's really bad to be a Sussex squad follower and supporter. Just saying. Amelia says, do you think Meghan treats Harry the way Camilla treats Charles? Maybe it runs in the family. No, I don't think so. I don't think Camilla treats Charles badly. I mean, there's sort of a difference between, I think, being somebody who's like nurturing and supporting and helping somebody navigate something versus what Meghan is doing. Meghan is literally like, look at this. Like, she really needs to have her hand on his nose because she's leading him around by his nose because apparently he's too dim to do anything else. He's dim. He doesn't want to make a decision. He's lazy, those sorts of things. Charles is not like that. Charles does make his own decisions. I mean, they even still have like separate houses and stuff, which I feel like is sort of an up crust thing. And so he goes and does his own thing. But they don't. Like, he has to literally have a matching throne with her because she can't bear the thought that he's more important than she is. Like, she was really miffed. She couldn't walk on the red carpet in Morocco because he was more important. So it's just kind of crazy. Renee says, do you think Bill Simmons spilled some beans for that article? Definitely could have. Definitely could have. BD Trend says, I heard that Meghan took British etiquette lessons after meeting Harry. I know I certainly would have. She knew what she was doing. She purposely made herself look bullied. 100%. 100%. I don't know about the classes, but definitely possible. Gemini says, to me, the VF article was making fun of Megsy. It was a full-on books about how Megsy is not to be trusted in investments. She's not bankable. I would agree with that. It was just, yeah, there were some parts of it that were definitely, you could feel the sarcasm. And I was like, oh, they're just kind of poking fun at her at this point. And she has become the lightning rod of sort of the derision. Becca Topia says, how are you doing? How's Miss Pippa? She is good. She is good. She's downstairs sleeping. She had a bit of tummy troubles this week. I switched her food, and the food must not agree with her because she had a horrible reaction to it. So she's better now, though. Okay, and she's going to get her teeth cleaned on Thursday, so that'll be fun. S. Kiker says, when will we get a South Park episode about the grifting fire? Oh, I imagine it is coming. It's too juicy now not to do another one. Janine says, hi, Brittany. If Charles were to abdicate to William, would Charles be king dad? I don't know. Probably not. But Charles will not abdicate unless he became supremely ill. And it was like, that was like the only, like, he could not literally fulfill his constitutional obligations. He might abdicate then, but until then, no. Creative Chaosify says, do you think Harry and Meghan will ever come out and counteract the bullying claims, kind of like setting the record straight on Oprah? They might. I just think that would make it worse, to be quite honest. That would make it worse. And they would only pull out employees, because this was what happened with the Us Weekly article, but they only pulled out employees that are like dead set loyal, or those who are interested in getting something. Because Ashley Hansen, I can't remember if it was before or after, she participated in the interview, and then, she's launching her own PR company. So it's like she probably did the nice interview to help get her off the ground for her new PR firm. So I just don't think it'll work. I honestly don't think it'll work. It's like them talking to the press seems to make everything worse. I think honestly, they just need to abandon this Hollywood thing and just find a quiet corner to live in, do something with Better Up, maybe do some things with charity. But I mean, the dream has to be well and truly dead at this point. Princess Goose says, there are so many non-Meghan fans in Florida. I don't think they'll ever move here. Yeah, no, nobody really likes her. Like, except for the coastal areas like Los Angeles and New York, I just don't think I haven't really met anybody who really likes Meghan Markle, to be quite honest. And since time has gone on, like the last couple of people I met were maybe in 2022, and that was in London. Since then, I bet you their perspectives have changed. I would not be surprised. A neighbor asked me about a blurb she reread about Netflix spending $10,000 on a kitchen remodel. Anyone hear anything? No. I mean, if they do that, that's not the end of the world. Jenmai says the VF article is more than bad. It nails to her brand that's already in the coffin. The brand is gone. Megxie needs to reincarnate to another person if she's thinking rebranding. Yeah, she needs to. I mean, when I say crisis management, that's part of it. Like, you need a complete rebrand. You need a crisis person, because the image you're projecting is not working. So you need to stop. But she can't listen to people. Like, they said that in Hollywood Reporter. They've said this here too. She won't listen to people. And this is why she's in this predicament now, because she's running the show and she's horrible at it. Like, that's the only way you can read it. Do you think Netflix will renew their contract in April? If they do, it'll be for much less. But I just doubt it. Like, unless her show was a runaway hit. And I would imagine too, Netflix is looking at the online reaction too. Yeah, people might be watching, but you got to be careful because it's like if you go to in and base your numbers around hate watching, well, they might not watch later. Okay, we got Stephanie says, "Good morning, everyone. I think Megan's squad postings deliberately to catch anyone who is tired of her. They are so rude and mean and hateful. It's like they don't have any job but to do this." That's true. Royal Watcher said, and she had a staff of 28 for the podcast. And yeah, there were like a lot of people in the credits because a lot of people worked on it. Guys, I'm a one-woman show. I do this pretty much all myself. I've had some help from time to time, but guys, this is literally a one-woman show. So, and I have like over 700 videos or something like that. And Megan can't get 12 podcasts together without 28 people to help her. And that wasn't even her idea. That's pathetic. Kate Greenham says, "In my opinion, ruling as a monarch till death is better than the monarchy in the long run than setting a precedence for abdicating. What do you think?" I actually prefer the abdication practice, to be quite honest, because you do get the benefit of the former monarch still being around. The coronation, or you could say the transfer of power process, doesn't happen in the midst of a time of grief. I think it was quite hard for Charles to lose his mom. And then, he became king, but then he had all these things he had to do, and he didn't really get a chance to mourn her. At least definitely in that first week or two. I think that's got to be hard. I think that's going to be really hard. So I prefer personally abdication because then you might be able to leave the throne in a bit of a better spot. The former monarch can still be around, but they can be retired so they don't have to do quite as much. There's just not so many demands on their life and stuff. And so I think it works pretty well it works in the Netherlands. There's a practice of it. Luxembourg. We've seen it now in the Netherlands, sorry, in Denmark, which was voluntary. I kind of wish Harold of Norway would have done it maybe last year, but now we have the whole case with Hakan and Metamarit and her son, Crown Prince Hakan's stepson, and all his legal trouble. So that might have not been so good, but Harold has such health problems. Like he has a pacemaker now, his wife does. They're like almost getting to 90 years old. And like at some point, it's just like, I appreciate it, but given the length of rule and stuff, you just got to wonder, wouldn't it be nicer if you could just take a little bit of a back seat and your son's doing most of it anyways? So almost what's the point? That's just my opinion though. Tracy McPherson says the Daily Mail article of height. Apparently King Frederick is 6 feet tall, but Mary looks as tall as him in a lot of pics. Is he tall in person? Gosh, that's a great question. Thank you so much, Tracy, because that goes along with actually having seen them in person. So I will say I didn't get too much of a time to like really focus on it because they walked by guys so fast. And I'm like, have my camera, I have my video camera, and I'm like freaking out because I'm like, oh my gosh, if I don't get the right stuff, it's gonna suck. I have a flash on my camera. I've never used a flash before. I've almost no clue what I'm doing. So I wasn't able to really focus on height that much. I wouldn't say I just wouldn't think though he's 6 feet. I feel like he's under 6 feet. It could be wrong, but I feel like he's under 6 feet. But I'm not a great judge of height. But it was just one of those things where you got to understand they walked by and it was like 5 seconds. And you have the camera on, you're trying to get the pictures. So there wasn't a moment where I could just stand there and just like appreciate it, if that makes sense. Because I would have loved an opportunity at some point to like they have the people who photograph the entrances and the people who get to photograph them as they're greeting people. And then sometimes even like people get pictures of like the dinner and stuff. And so I would love to be one of those people one day. I think that would be absolutely fantastic because it would give you more time to like fully embrace everything. Because literally they walked past and it was 5 seconds and it was over. Now, Queen Mary and Frederick did walk back and then back in again. So maybe it would have been sort of not too bad, but still it's kind of one of those things that's just a bit challenging, to be quite honest. Like even people would ask me like, how tall is Catherine? I would have a hard time telling you exactly how tall she is. We were on a curb, so we had a little bit of height over her, but she is obviously, I think probably about 5'9" would be a good height for her. I don't think she's too much above that, to be quite honest. But yeah, it was hard to tell, to be quite honest. I know I've said that a couple of times, but it was one of those things where it's just like, I'm like freaking out. Only have little couple seconds to get everything. Although I'm really excited. So I was checking out Canon cameras and They have new lenses now that are more specialty video lenses, but can also be used for stills. So I'm really hoping to invest in one of those. And then they have two new cameras, the R1 and the R5 Mark II. And I had the R3, but the Mark II, R5, and the R1 can take pictures and videos simultaneously. Ah, that is my dream, guys. That has been my dream, especially if I have to be a one-woman show. If I could take pictures and do video at the same time, guys, I would be thrilled to death. Be thrilled to death. So, Creative Chaosify says, whenever Meghan feels cornered, she creates drama to make herself a victim. What do we think will happen this time? A miscarriage, domestic abuse, a kidnapping attempt? Hopefully nothing really all that dramatic, but yeah, she does that. I mean, they even mentioned in the article that she's perpetually stuck in a victim cycle. She cannot take responsibility for any decisions, any mishaps, anything. It's always somebody else's fault and she's a victim. And that's not a good look. Sharon says, is Invictus coming in February? If so, do you think Meghan will attend? I think she will attend. I almost thought about attending, kind of like an undercover type thing. But honestly, guys, I didn't really want to spend the money. I don't care that much. And I'm like, it would be a long time. I might go do something else that's just fun for me because January's been insane. And thankfully, January's been a very good month to me. So I'm very excited about that. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, do I really want to? Do I really want to waste my time? Is that really what I want to do? Or in money too, it would have been pricey. Because the only reason I wanted to go is I wanted to confirm a theory of mine that I have, and maybe somebody else is able. I mean, you don't have to, but if somebody is able to do that, that would be cool. Is that I think what happens is that they have all these competitions and basically nobody attends. That it's sort of an empty event where they can get a lot of decent people. They can get a decent amount of people for the opening and closing ceremonies, but that's because now they're obviously paying quite a bit of talent to come on and try to boost them up so people attend, which I think is a shame for the competitors because the people aren't there for the competitors. They're there to see Jelly Roll and Katy Perry. They're not there to see the veterans. The veterans are sort of an afterthought. So you have this competition where it's more about making sure people attend because the musical guests are good rather than them attending to want to attend. And my other thought was that even though the Invictus Games sort of doesn't like the negative attention Meghan Markle brings, she brings eyeballs to an event otherwise nobody would watch. So Lowe says, love the bit about Harry being feckless and lazy. He wants to lead the RF, but never really wanted to, hence the bitterness from the Harkles ever since. Exactly. And he says, hello from Corpus Christi. Just anyone else besides me worry about them since it seems the whole world hates them deservedly. Will they not be able to live with that kind of continued hate? I mean, I do feel bad. I mean, that nobody should live with that level of hate. Of course not. But it's just one thing where they've made a lot of decisions and they could change the course. They could 100% change the course. I would encourage them to. But again, that would require Meghan Markle to do the one thing apparently she is incapable of doing, and that is listening to somebody else. She's incapable of doing that. She's incapable of taking advice. And so because of that, I don't see that as a strong possibility because I don't think she can literally bring herself to do it. Her Majesty the Queen says the VF article said H would be happy going to charity forever. He should have stayed in the BRF. That way he could have been the next Anne. That's what she does and is loved for her work. Exactly. Princess Goose says authenticity is something she doesn't have. So when she shares hugs with people, they don't want them like the team. She's not a nice person. People don't want her help, especially anymore. She should have had an assistant go and drop off the stuff. Even if it was branded like our place, have an assistant go and do it. Don't do it yourself. You've already been labeled a disaster tourist. You've already been labeled as somebody who's just doing this for their own gain. And then you go and literally look like you're merching. She needs a better PR firm. Oh, she needs to listen to them. I believe she has good people behind her, but she doesn't listen to them. Herzogin von Balen, the Duke and Duchess of Disaster Tourists, wouldn't complain if they had successful with their schemes. So true. Nana says, Brittany, do you think the VF article would have been published a year ago? Has the change in political climate made it possible for the woke to be criticized in big print? I think that does help. I think that does help for sure. Oh, Lily Slim says, and I did show you earlier, show us your coffee mug. So it's Germany, the Brandenburg Gate, got soccer ball, beer, Neuschwanstein. and then the Reichstag, and I think that's the tower in Berlin, and the Reichstag. So that's the Parliament building. I believe that is. So I was told when we went to, because I always says Neuschwanstein, Neuschwanstein, I think I said. She's like, well, that sounds like pig. It's supposed to sound like a swan. So Neuschwanstein. So it sounds nicer. Lowe's says they're never asked how being half out would affect their privacy. Racism, mental health, colonialism, it's all BS to downplay their greed and fame for money and laziness. Obsession with control, yes. Agree. Monarchy says, I wonder if anyone from BetterUp has reached out to them to offer mental help at this point. Ah, that's funny. Hannah says, if employees are needing therapy after dealing with Meghan, imagine how much therapy Harry's going to need. Yeah. Well, here's the thing too, and I think there's something to being over therapized. That's not really a phrase, but I think you can overdo therapy to such an extent that you're actually creating problems that didn't ever really exist. I think there's something good to sometimes not going to therapy, just getting on with life. I think sometimes it's the best therapy, to be quite honest. Now, some might disagree with me. I think it's good to have somebody to maybe talk out feelings with that's maybe not a family member sometimes. So that way you can get a different perspective. Somebody maybe that's not quite as close to the situation. They may be able to offer greater insights. If like I had, mentor at the church or something, that would be what I would consider a like therapy. But I think there's something to the effect of having so much therapy that you twist yourself into oblivion. And we've seen this with people who apparently go to therapy for years and decades. You really should not be in therapy for years or decades, in my personal opinion. I'm not a medical expert, but I'm just saying because I think you over focus on the past to such an extent you actually can't get past it because you're overthinking about it. And I think that's where Harry is. I think Harry has, much like his imaginary dragons, created more imaginary dragons in his own mind about his past, about his childhood and stuff. Things that just weren't true. Like, oh, my parents never took me bike riding. There's literally pictures of them going bike riding on private properties. And yes, maybe sometimes there was a little bit of a photo op there, but I'm sure they did it without. He is literally rewriting history in his mind because of therapy. So I think therapy is actually the one thing maybe he should not do. He should my suggestion to Harry would be is if you do get divorced, go live in the English countryside, work a farm, work out your thoughts and emotions there. You'll be better off because therapy is what is killing you, in my personal opinion, in terms of your ability to grasp what you're doing and the seriousness of it. That he was apparently too stupid to realize that writing a tell-all book about his family might go wrong. Are you dumb? How could you not know that? But I really do genuinely think, because I've said the same thing, guys. I genuinely think he sometimes doesn't realize how devastated his family was by his decision there. I don't think he knows. Royal Watcher says, did you see Harry and Meghan walk right past the vet in the wheelchair? Harry didn't even look at him. He does not love Invictus. It's all for show. Yeah, I think that's become part of it for sure. And especially if Meghan is there, then he is so obsessed with her that he can't focus on anything else. That's why she shouldn't be at Invictus. Not just because I think she's a distraction for the media. She's a distraction to him. She's a massive distraction to him. Which the VF article highlights as well, is that when she's there, he's a completely different beast. He's obsessed. He's paranoid, so many different things. And Nomad Sebastian says, Megan's biggest flaw is that she is incapable of learning from her countless mistakes. She's attention hungry and insecure. Exactly. Marjorie says the VF article basically summed up the total failure of Meghan to deliver the life she promised. Yep. She's totally failed in that regard. Jim Nye says, my question is, was Megsy desperate to launch her good for nothing IG because of all these foreseen bad ventures and was aimed her way this year? She wanted to distract the bad news with videos. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. Because I think she's always wanted to be on Instagram. She loves Instagram. So I definitely think she always wanted to be back on it. The challenge is that everything's been just a wreck ever since. Idub says, while this article was on point, I have to wonder if it was partially canned or had been mostly written up for a while. That was a quick turnaround to print it from the LA fire fiasco. Yeah, but it came in right after. So it would have coincided well with the release of Megan's new show. So they probably were aware of the date. It coincided as well with the anniversary of Mexit, although it should have come out the month before technically, but that might have been too far away. So it made more sense for it to go live in January because they announced it January 8th, 5 years ago. And 5-year increments are usually like a big anniversary. So I think that's where it was. Kate Greenham, thank you so much for the tip this morning. Harry didn't just write a tell-all book. He put his own voice to those words in the audiobook. Very true. The world will forever know and be able to hear Harry tell us about touching himself thinking of his mother. That is so true. One of the people, I have somebody who's been on a couple of my trips with me. It's been so much fun. And she talks about every time I talk about Harry thinking about his dead mother while touching his nether regions, always makes her laugh. So it makes me giggle too, because it's such a stupid thing to admit. Why would you admit something so catastrophically dumb? People don't need to know that. I don't need to know that Harry had a frostbitten penis during his brother's wedding. Like, why do we need to know that? We know that now. That's why, too, when it comes to, let's say, saying something negative, much better to have it, let's say, being said rather than written down. Because if it's something written down, like, you can't avoid it. It's there. So Harry can't avoid it. It's always there. So he says, Royalty says, hello. We got Jenny as well. Good morning, everyone. Are there any trips planned for us this year? There is one. I'll be announcing it next week. So if you're on the email list for my Trova trip thing, you should get one. And then I'll wait later because I know a couple people and I got to figure it out because I wasn't able to do it earlier. And I need to figure it out that I was able to let some people. So the people who have been on trips before, they know when the date is, or at least the last one. I'll let a couple other people know as well. So it'll be this fall. And I wanted to try to get it to some of the people, but it'll launch this week. But if you go to my, let's see, I think there's a trip page that maybe already exists for it. So I'll put the link in there for those who might be in the chat, for those who might, oh, I don't know if the link will work. We'll see. You can try it. I put the link in from the website so you guys can see where it is. It's gonna be very, very good. Is that it's gonna be super exciting. So it'll be right around the time of the Luxembourg transition of power. So I can go and hopefully cover that in person. Very excited about that. Joni says, stop bullying. We teach our children this type of behavior is wrong. I don't know who you're referring to, but yes, Meghan should stop bullying people, pointing out somebody's flaws and pointing out, let's say, and offering constructive criticism is not bullying. Just putting that out there. You look them up in the dictionary, they are different. Just saying. Rosalie says, good morning from Manila, Philippines. What can you expect from the tall two people? What kind of decisions can they make? Only the bad ones. Only the bad ones, apparently. Creative Chaosify says, will Harry be testifying during the upcoming court hearing? What is exactly going to be about? So this is the Sun case. Honestly, not watching it that much. But I believe he will be testifying, which is golly. Karen says, hi, everyone. I feel like Meghan is addicted to being seen. I don't wish addiction on anyone, but just like anyone else, she needs to get help. This woman is a common denominator in most of this. Exactly. And most of the articles do target her. And not because it's bad, but because she is the problem. The thing that constantly comes through is she's the issue. She's the issue. They kind of like him. They hate her. That's like constantly the issue you see. MP 2022 says, good morning, Brittany and RNN peeps. Why doesn't Meghan get a PR person like Camilla did? The goal wasn't to make Camilla happy, but to make her likable. Well, there's a couple problems with that. Number one, Meghan does have PR people. She doesn't listen to them. That's a huge issue. Number two is that Camilla, I think, honestly, is a mostly likable person. Yes, obviously, she did some things that she should not have done. But if you are genuinely a likable person, if people find you warm and friendly, you just basically have to sort of kind of get through the negative press by just laying low, which Camilla did do, being, you could say, I don't know if easy is the right word, but being easy to get along with, being friendly with people, warm and natural. I feel like Camilla is very natural, has, she's funny, I think. Meghan is just not those things. Meghan is too contrived to be those things. Marjorie says Meghan made promises to Harry on Mexit that she could not deliver. VF sums up this failure and confirms how delusional he is and manipulative and self-important Meghan feels she is. Yeah, I might have to use that as one of my five things here, because I just gotta, let's see, I gotta do this here real quick. Is yes, Meghan could not deliver on Mexit. That is good. Because I'm trying to think again of a kind of a summary video thing, you could say. Thoughts on their remarks regarding Mark Zuckerberg. I like how the Telegraph took it, is like they are 20 years behind. Nobody cares. Leanda says Harry seems to be a lot like the Duke of Windsor. He was dedicated as childlike, hated making decisions, and relied heavily on Wallace. 100%. Joni says stop bullying. I agree. Meghan should really stop bullying her staff members. Allegedly bullying your staff members. Meghan should really stop it. Her press might suddenly get better if she does. Just saying. Sonia, thank you so much for the tip. I love your show. A little tip for all your very appreciated hard work. Why, thank you. That really does help. I was up very late last night. Somebody said you put in variety instead of Vanity Fair. Like, oh yeah, that probably makes sense. I was tired. It's been a while since I've stayed up that late, but the video ended up being long. But I like to go over something kind of point by point. I think that's sort of good. I like being able to respond to different things. Princess Goose says the Kardashians lean into the trashiness. The early episodes weren't interesting enough, and then they went trashy and viewership went up. Exactly. You kind of have to lean into it. And that might, you have to be willing to maybe allow that to go different places. You can't go too trashy. You have to go trashy to make it interesting, but you can't go too trashy. You got to be careful. So it's a fine line. I don't know what that line is, but it's a fine line. Monarchy says, thoughts on the 14-year-old girl moving away from her and putting her two hands on the girl's arms. Safety, please. Yeah, Meghan has no sense of personal space. She's no sense of personal space. And it's just not very kind. Diz fan says, Brittany, did you find it shocking when Vanity Fair article mentioned about Meghan doing her post-bio divorce from Harry? I was not surprised at all. I was not surprised at all, because Meghan, I think, like, that's always part of the equation. And like the person says, she plays checkers, not chess. So she's not a Machiavellian level figure by any stretch of the imagination. But I do think she's thinking about the future. And if things go horribly wrong with Harry, I mean, her easy out is divorce. So I think that's sad, obviously, for the kids involved. But yeah. Van US says, Brittany, do you think the info about King Charles III offering accommodations to Prince Harry but was turned down was a preemptive stick against the victim narrative he uses? Probably, but I think they were asked, hey, did he ask? And they're like, yeah, we have a place in Buckingham Palace for him, but he declined. And he's going to utilize more UK taxpayer dollars to protect him somewhere else because he is a dunderhead. So I point that out because if Harry wants to be safe, the safest place in London is Buckingham Palace by far. By far, it's one of the most secure places probably in London is Buckingham Palace. Let's be honest. But the reason Harry, let's say, is getting offered a place at Buckingham Palace and not maybe St. James's or Kensington is because Buckingham Palace is of where a lot of minders are. Now, he is not being, let's say, stalked, but they want to know 100% who is there with them. He does not get free reign when he is there. He gets maybe a room or a suite or something, but it is highly controlled. It's highly controlled because him and Meghan have decided to, let's say, made the decision to bring Netflix onto their property and stuff like that on Windsor, and the royal family was like, no, you've lost the privilege to do whatever you want on properties anymore, or to have less supervision. So they are supervised when they are on properties. They are not allowed free reign because they've lost that privilege. Annie says, I can't imagine waking up every day to that kind of hate from the world. whole world, but they did it to themselves. They did. They did. I mean, there is, of course, always a way back, but it would mean a lot of soul searching for her in particular. A lot of soul searching for her, some soul searching from him to get them to a place where they're going to go. Pulong Yulong says, I finally made it back to alive. Hi from freezing Huntington Beach. Yes, hopefully the cold weather means a bit more able to combat the wildfires for sure. Elizabeth says, good morning from West Virginia, watching the snow melt and wondering when Harry is going to show some brass and start doing for himself and his children and stop taking direction from Meghan. Exactly. Exactly. Like, does he even know the reason everything's so bad is because he keeps taking advice from his wife? Oh, gosh. Tracy says, good morning, Brittany. Enjoyed your take on the VF piece. Honest, Brittany, I think Prince William is glad he doesn't have to deal with Harry anymore. He was probably a burden on him. I mean, I have to say, I probably agree. For many years, William, I think, was like, I think William and Harry were closer than obviously they are now, or even when Meghan met him. But I don't think William was that close to Harry in some ways because Harry was just a mess and he wouldn't take help. He wouldn't take support. He blamed everybody else for his problems. And William's like, I can't live with that level of unhealthiness. And so I think that's why William gravitated so much towards the Middleton family because they're normal. They're normal. Not perfect, but definitely normal. And so I think he appreciates the normalcy and not having to deal with the drama that is Harry. Princess Goose says, did Harry lose another father figure? I don't care about David Foster anymore. Nope. That seems to have dimmed as well. Sarah says, Jennifer Garner, who is a great talent and beloved, was in front of the cameras for a compassionate interview during the fires. Meghan loves to have photos of her, but rarely avoids a spontaneous interview. Yeah, and I think they should have done a spontaneous interview, to be quite honest. So they could put the focus back on the people rather than on themselves. By not speaking to the press, I feel like they put more attention on themselves. So Hannah says, we know more clearly now that Harry doesn't believe he is a sociopath. However, he is a grown man who believes his mom was murdered. She made poor choices of having a drunk driver and no security. She didn't. And also seatbelt. Again, I don't understand why. I mean, honestly, William doesn't do this either. And I give him more of a pass, I guess, because he doesn't make such a fuss out of it. But it's like they have a great way of saying, and a campaign of saying, hey, wear your seatbelt. Our mom didn't wear a seatbelt. And that's probably part of the reason why she's not here is that she did not wear a seatbelt. So we encourage all of you, wear a seatbelt. It saves lives. I wish William or Harry would do a campaign like that. It'd be so easy. Tracy McPherson, thank you so much for the tip. Why haven't Netflix dropped them after their failures? It must be 2 years when Spotify cut the contract. Yeah, so it depends on how they wrote the contract. So if Netflix wrote the contract where Harry and Meghan would get a good big payout if they cut them early, Netflix might figure, well, if we cut them early, we'd have to pay them 20 million. But to produce Meghan's show, it'll only cost us 5 million. So we'll do the 5 million over the 20 million. I think that's the unfortunate way Netflix wrote its contract. I think Spotify wrote its contract where they could get out if they needed to. Or to them, it's like, you know what, we don't want to waste a penny more on these two. Like, it's ridiculous. You know, I think Spotify and almost in some ways had to work with them more. And so Spotify's like, we're done. We're done. The show didn't do well. We artificially inflated it to number one over Joe Rogan just to try to make it seem more palatable, but we all know it's not. So blessings. Are you guys not tired of this relentless hate on Meghan? Why has no one come forward to tell the world that he or she was bullied and sent to therapy if the story is true? Why? Because they're afraid of the backlash because you think those people are lying? But it's not relentless if it's true. It's relentless because it's true, I should say. It's relentless because it's true. And it's not hate, it's criticism. She's being criticized. People are saying she's rude, she's arrogant, she's mean, she's not nice. She shows different sides to different people. I think anybody with half a brain should be able to pick that up at this point, to be quite honest. No offense. It's very obvious at this point. Very obvious. If you don't want to believe it, hey, that's your prerogative. Not telling you what to think, but I think when you're obviously not seeing, when the truth is so there, being reported so many times, pretty much very much in similar patterns, there is a pattern that you cannot avoid. And if you are avoiding the pattern, then that's kind of on you. That's not necessarily a great look. Anya says the Duchess of Markle. Please, she's so special. She must hug everyone to imbue her magic. No one is going to talk her out of that, said Anya. Thank you so much for the tip. And yes, she has the Markle Sparkle. She needs to give you the Markle Sparkle. But I just overall think that when it comes to Meghan, it's just not a good look to be constantly like, you need to touch people, hug people. I think it's a way to artificially display a sense of intimacy, you could say. So Nick says, I wonder if the family knew of Harry's deficiencies and was just giving him busy work to do. Probably, probably. And that he would probably be best at simply the bread and butter royal engagements. That would probably be where he would be most successful. Obviously, you had Invictus as well. So Carlos said sociopaths are made. I do not know. I know there's like a difference between sociopath and psychopath, but yeah, I can't remember. So Iru is asking about Meghan's conversation with the publishing house to gauge interest in a potential book. So yeah, it's definitely, I mean, if I was her, I'd be like, you should always be aware of the possibility of divorce. I think in their world, that's a common thing to happen in Hollywood. It's actually a fairly common thing to happen in the royal family, to be quite honest. So, like, the way it's like they need to be prepared, but at the same time, when you are just focusing on what book can I bring into the equation, that just means to me, or just says to me, that you're only in it really for the money. Rosalie says, we all knew no one's going to watch Polo. The same goes for the cooking show. Netflix ought to fire them real soon. I think they won't get their contract renewed. I think they won't get their contract renewed. Crunchy Dragon says, I cannot imagine wanting to watch Meghan when I could watch the Great British Baking Show. Yeah. Yeah. Azima says, love her or hate her. There is no middle ground. Yeah, I would say that's true with Meghan, and that's a problem for her. It's better to have people who are, let's say, you might have people who like you and love you and hate you, but you want to have a decent amount in the middle that could be swayed either way. I think that more people are moving to the I strongly dislike you side is a big problem for her. A.E. Dell says, who would hide their children to this scale? Things only psychos do. Yeah, she wants to play games. She wants to play games. And the games aren't helping her. They're not helping the kids. They're going to make the kids' life miserable. And later, Renee says the worse they criticize her, the harder she will try to push back and she'll make more mistakes. Exactly. She'll get more she'll get more desperate is what I'm looking for. TD says, can't have middle ground with narcissistic people. Her actions are that a malignant narcissist. It's her own undoing. I would mostly agree with that. Yeah. It's her own undoing. Foggy Morning says, I'm wondering about the large boxing on her backside at one of her glorious appearances the other day. If she puts the footage from her fires into her cooking show, she's done. Yeah, I don't think that'll go very well. Don't think that'll go very well. Joan G says the potential Meghan Markle's divorce book coincided with her not wearing her engagement ring. That is true. That is true. That could definitely be the case because she didn't wear it all of last year. It's very weird. It's very weird. And all of a sudden it reappeared. I'm like, that's weird. Water says, love is seeing Princess Catherine visiting the hospital who helped her. She looks amazing. She does. Carol says, I think that if they use chronological order in the article would have flowed better. People she was nice to, she hasn't revealed her true identity. Yeah, I would say. DP says, Brittany, if you had to guess how much money would you think they would still have in the bank? I honestly could not. I could not even remotely tell you. I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure. I mean, if we know some of their money, like at least $10 million went to Archwell. I think the anonymous donation is from themselves for their organization. So the Jewel says Markle has no sparkle. Yep. Carol says it was interesting the path that was shown how Meghan bullied her staff, where she showed her grandiose self and then turned into a mean girl on steroids. Yes. Yeah. You know, Sharon says Meghan, Amber, Blake Lively, same type. Yeah. That they can be incredibly lovely and nice to you in the beginning and then turn on a dime when you displease them. So you might remember it's very high school. Think about it, guys. It's very, very high school. All right. Okay. Okay. Sam R says, Brittany, I accessed the cut article just a few months ago in the UK. Maybe reset your VPN. That's a good idea because I do need to reread it. I need to print it out, is what I need to do. I need to print some of these out. It's just good to have a physical print copy. Always good to have something like that. So we have Kat Green, and thank you so much for the tip. Said, in my opinion, when she finally drops the photos of the kids, they're going to go instantly viral. I think that's the end goal, like Brad and Angelina's kids or Michael Jackson's. I mean, I could definitely see that. Or Surrey. Remember Surrey, Tom Cruise's baby with Katie Holmes? They kept her hidden for like the first 5-6 months of her life. There was a lot of talk that maybe there were issues or something. So yeah, they would go instantly viral, but I just don't know if it would be in a way helpful. I just don't know if it would be helpful really to the kids in the long run. It's unfortunate. That's funny. Says Meghan already had the upper hand for divorce because he has now admitted publicly to anger problems and substance abuse problems. Yes, and she will use all of that against him. But again, he can also use that. She made me crazy. Like my suggestion to Harry would be is like he could say something like, she made me crazy. I got paranoid and made decisions I would not have made except for, the things that she whispered in my ear. Gretchen the First says, do you think the RF kept that bullying report sealed in case Harry and Meghan ever broke up and she tried to destroy him? Definitely could be. I think. Oh, what am I going to say? I think though that it's also to protect the staff because they're worried about staff retaliation. They're really, really worried about that. So Becky said, Brittany, I thought you liked me. Please not here in Texas. Yeah, no, probably not in Texas, but I'm just saying like they really just need to get out of this like Hollywood bubble, go somewhere, touch grass, like get out of the chaos of that industry because I don't think it's a good thing. This is sweet. Incantino says, VF article, I wish you have a bigger platform to educate more people about the role of the monarchy and the royal family. You would be a dream team with Meghan Kelly and Maureen Callahan. Well, maybe one day, guys, I'm on Dan Wooten every week. Need to be more consistent about mentioning that. So I will be on Dan Wooten again on Monday. So that'll be more opportunities. So yeah, we will keep talking about it and keep growing. And so hopefully maybe that happens. James Bell says, your thoughts on Harry's upcoming lawsuits. Will Harry crumble under the pressure? Should be funny to talk about. I mean, I think he's just wasting his money. I think he's just wasting his money chasing after imaginary dragons. And that's not a particularly attractive thing to do. So Myri Deal says, my cancer fight started this past June. Once a cancer patient, always a cancer patient. I've been spared the chemo radiation part, but I had radical surgery last August. Well, I'm so sorry to hear that. And I know, yeah, it's something that's always there. It is always there. You always have to be checked. So it's just not something that ever goes away. So that's something Catherine will be dealing with for the rest of her life. Ami Janiana says she should sue for NDA. All the delicious details will come up in court. Good luck with that, Meghan. Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah, Stephanie says, shame. I wish the British royals would take up the Swedish royals rules when you have to live and be educated in the country for titles relevant to the kids and, of course, full citizen. Yes, I agree. 100% agree. I think it would be so easy to switch that in the UK. I think they should do it. Karen G says, I love your necklace. Is it a magnetic one? It is not. It's one of my ones from Ana Lucia Diamonds. So it's a lovely piece here. And so, yeah, I really like it. And so I may change it out again here in a little bit. Like I got some necklaces and they got kind of tangled when I traveled. And so I was like trying to separate them yesterday. I had to give up. So I was like, okay, I'll try this again later. TD says the red flags came from them, how many different versions the same event they are telling, all of them, which mostly were debunked on Soap Nonsense. Yeah, I love that they debunked the soap story. That was That was basically gold. Basically saying that they were letting Meghan Markle keep her childhood delusion because it made her feel better. Like, literally, they're treating her as if she's a child that they need to placate. And they're just like, "Oh, yeah, honey, just continue to believe that. That's fine." Well, Wildcat Wilma says, "Have you heard the Variety article that she had her team approach publishers about interest in the divorce memoir recently?" Yes. So we don't know how recently that was, but I could definitely see Megan doing it. Definitely see her doing it. Foggy Morning says, Perry thinks he can claim it took him 5 to 6 years to see the true Megan. He's crazy. No one will believe it. Well, to be honest, he's quite dim. So I could see it taking him a long time to get there. But at the same time, he could also say, but I was also in love with this woman. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. I kept trying to make it work because I wanted to help the kids and everything. So that's the way she could do it. Peeper Jean says, I wonder if the article was originally a puff piece, but once 2025 blew up and the duo's faces quickly, spectacularly Vanity Fair shifted gears, could explain why it's so disjointed. Partly, somebody else mentioned that maybe Netflix, it had more on Netflix originally and they took some of that out. So, I mean, I could see that. But at the same time, there's a part of me that thinks no. Because once you start talking to the people around Harry and Meghan, if you're not directly, let's say, directed by Meghan onto who to talk to, you will get these negative stories. You will 100% get these negative stories. You'll get a handful of people who say, the sun shines out of their butts, and then you'll get most of the people who saying, it was hell on earth for the time they had to work with them. So, Royalty, which is a account I follow, which has their like a PR person, they have some interesting thoughts. They said, let's see here. That my question is, what would change the Vanity Fair article as a result of Meghan's show being postponed? The timing is not a coincidence, and they did mention the postponement, but I'm curious about what may have been removed. Were there firsthand accounts from the production staff of Netflix? That's a great question. It's a fantastic question. So I'm curious about that. All right. Sorry, guys. I'm like, oh, it's been an hour and 56 minutes, everyone. I know you guys enjoy it, but it just does get tiring after a while. So we will wrap up here in a second. CC says, frankly, we all need to sharpen our critical thinking and use our common sense. We've all gotten lazy with social media, believing every whispered word as fact versus opinion. Opinions are not fact. They are not. They are not. And it's good to have the ability to read something and evaluate if you think it's true or not. And that's different for everyone. But for me, it's like something where I like Vanity Fair is not let's say, it's not a minor publication. It's a major publication. So to have something like that, it's serious. It's serious. Princess Goose says, I prefer abdication because the queen wasn't doing all that she had been doing in her younger years. I'm sure it'll be the same for Charles. So we will see. Marital Counseling says, your voice is piercing my ears. I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's just my voice. It's kind of interesting because I get other people every once in a while who talk about the voice issue. And I'm like, I think it's kind of an older thing, I guess, but I don't think because of the proliferation of so many different people on talking heads and stuff anymore, I don't think there is really a thing to having a news voice anymore, if that makes sense. So I'm not interested in developing some sort of news voice. Sorry, but some of it's my allergy issues too, and I still have the cough, so that's part of it. I did post suggesting Netflix gather all their behind the scenes clips of Meghan's cooking show, showing her throwing tantrums and put out as a show. The response would be positive, but Suzanne said, I think that's actually not bad. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I actually think that would be probably more entertaining than the show itself. So Christina says, a lot of therapists want to drag up everything awful from your past, and that does more harm than good. I would agree with that. I think you need responsible therapy, but I also think it needs to be like a short-term solution. And like, I think about, my great-grandparents or something like that. I think my great-grandfather, like his parents died young. He was on his own, like helping to raise his siblings and stuff like that. And he didn't go to therapy, and he turned out mostly fine, I think. And I think part of the thing is sometimes you just got to get on with life. I think that's sometimes just sort of the trick is you just got to get on with it. And that's hard, of course, but I think it's sometimes the only way to really go because sometimes that gives you a something beyond, you know? We have Deandra, who's been a member for 13 months. Hi, B and everyone. I love it every time you're on Dan Wooten's show. How is he affording everything? Lawsuits, house, security. So I guess this is about Harry. I mean, obviously they got a decent amount of chunk of change from his book, some from Netflix, some from Spotify. But you have to think at some point this is going to start to run out. The bandwidth won't last forever. And if Harry, let's say, gets stuck paying for these lawsuits, he may have to pay all the legal fees for everyone. You know, these lawsuits may end up costing them millions of dollars and he may not get what he wants. And so at the end of the day, will it really be all that helpful for him? I don't know. I don't know. Music Lover says, I watched Suits way before Meghan joined the RF, and I liked her character in Suits, and I liked her right up to the point of the Oprah Winfrey interview. From there, downhill. That seems to be it. People all have their own catalyst for kind of not liking Meghan, and it comes from a variety of things. They watch something, and they're like, wait, I don't really like that anymore and stuff. So it kind of everybody had their catalyst moment. So Judith says, as a therapist, Harry has been over therapized. He is stuck in trauma. It's a bad place to be. I agree. I think it is a bad place to be. I genuinely feel sorry for him because I feel like somebody's taking advantage of him and he's just constantly living in the trauma and it's just not healthy. It's not healthy. It's not healthy. At some point, I think therapy is good. Talking to somebody who's outside the situation is good as they can offer a different perspective. That's why I like when people, even in the sphere we watch, somebody like Justine Bateman calls them disaster tourists. I thought the same thing, used different words, but you came to the same conclusion I did, and you're outside the situation. And that brings a stronger perspective in because I've watched all the time and people know what I'm going to say, but you're somebody different. So I think Harry, I think he's been in therapy, but I think it's just one of those things where it's just getting worse. Ashley Joe says, I like your voice. Thank you. Your Saturday morning lives keeps me company while I clean today. I need to clean too. But yeah, I think I think it's something that people used to go and like they used to train their voice, but that was when there was like 3 channels and stuff like that. I feel like since the proliferation of YouTube, unless I have like a really high pitched squeaky voice, people say my voice is high. And I'm like, it's not really that high. So I just find it really funny. I was like, the thing that people talk about, I was like, I would never think comments on my voice would be that bad. They're only minor. I guess I think of them because I just find them so weird. All right. So you have Ron, how long would 100 million last you? The end of my life, man. The end of my life. Although I will say I do have expensive taste in some things. I would have a very nice, beautiful shoe closet. The shoe closet would be the dream. Oh man. Adriana says, hi B, your voice is very okay. I like it. Well, good. That helps. That helps. So guys, we will go ahead and wrap it up because we obviously hit about 2 hours here. And I just think it's so fun. Thank you for all those. Like John Bread and Sharon says, my voice is nice. Thank you. Because it's just one of those weird things. And so, guys, I really do appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great rest of the Saturday. Enjoy time with your family and friends. And golly, it's only 18 days into the year and things aren't going super well for Harry and Meghan. I don't know if they can turn it around. I really don't. Like, there's always, everybody loves a comeback story. Harry and Meghan can be that, but it would require a lot of self-reflection. And I don't know if they can do it. So guys, anyways, I hope you guys have sometimes self-reflection is good. So hope you guys maybe are able to reflect on something this weekend. Thank you again for watching and all your support. And I shall see you again very soon. Bye.